Thank you all for coming. A bit nervous. I'm used to lecture, but not in that kind of form. World water challenges. Yes, we do have. No matter what model you look at, all climatic models predict that for the coming few generations, not few years, few generations, we should get ready for much less rainfall, especially in arid and semi-arid regions. So what is the challenge? Well, unless catastrophe occurs, God forbid, the population in the world, if not exponentially increased, it will increase in a rate which is far from linearity. That means that sooner or later, we shall have to provide the population around the world with much more food, which means much more water. In my opinion, water and food are synonyms, the same. Most of the water used around the world to produce food. That means that the current amount of water that we have will not be able to support the increasing rate of population. Now, there is another parameter. All fertile basins around the world are already fully exploited. Thus, any further increased demand for food will come from marginal basins. Marginal basins, usually in semi-arid and arid regions, that means needed irrigation. It will be based on massive irrigation. And the background here is a great example from San Juan Basin at the foothills of the Andes. Using Israeli technology, we took a virgin desert land and in less than 3 years converted it into a productive irrigated land. So it can be done. Now the question is, what are the technologies that involve? I will not be able to elaborate on all, few examples for my country. But before I start, water and local production of food are among the most important parameters in the Israeli homeland security. We actually were the first to include water in our homeland security parameters. So it is clear that whatever has been developed thus far came out of a necessity. So here again in the background of this slide, the fact that we moved with settlements, kibbutzim, villages, farms into the desert, in this case in the Arava Valley, in the Negev, it was not because we wanted to show everyone that we can do that. It's not a show-off. It came out of real necessity to increase local food production. Okay, a bit about the region. Can we dim the light a bit, if possible? Okay, here is the Nile Valley with the delta of the Nile. The dark colors, of course, present irrigated area. Here is Suez Canal, Gulf of Suez, Sinai Peninsula, and here is Israel, and the dying Dead Sea is right here. So Israel is a bit darker. Not as dark as the delta, so that means it's covered with more vegetation. Yes, we irrigate our land, and that's why we look a bit different. But grosso modo, across this region, we produce or we consume more water than nature provides us with, more water than God provides us with. So water consumption is exceeding the safe yield. Just a number, it is about 1,400 cubic meters. Each cubic meter is 264 US gallons, okay, per capita per year, which is less than 20% of what recommended as self-sustained supply by the World Bank and United Nations. So yes, water in the Middle East is a scarce resource, and here I replace it immediately by commodity. We are the first country in the world who declared water and referred to water as a commodity like oil and gas. We pay for water, and we pay a lot. Somehow we are used to pay for oil and gas around the world. Oil and gas is also free gift from nature, but as water. But somehow we believe, or most of the people around the world believe, that water should be delivered free. Well, if that will be the attitude, the amount and the quality of water delivered to the vast majority of the population will deteriorate or will be lower with time. Okay, so the goal is to bridge over water scarcity, over water shortage, securing sufficient and adequate quality, amount of quality and of water. There is no deficiency around the world of H2O. We lack of adequate quality of water. We need good quality. We need fresh water. Okay, how we did it? One, by improving water use efficiency, creating the incentives to save on water and use the water in the most efficient way, especially in the agricultural sector. I'm going to show a few examples. And when that was not enough, we moved to so-called new water production, reclaiming sewage water and later on desalinating groundwater and seawater. We did it simultaneously. And this is a very important parameter that I will dwell later on it. So in the 50s, we accepted the recommendation by the CTO of Tennessee Valley Authority, Engineer Johnston, to take water from the upper Jordan River above the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee, actually the only fresh natural reservoir in the entire Middle East, in Israel, located next to Jordan, next to the Golan Heights, okay? And it is the most at the time, was the most sustainable water resource in the region. It is fed by 3 major springs, by the way, all replenished outside of the borders of Israel in Syria and southern Lebanon, and it flows toward the Sea of Galilee, and it used to flow toward the Dead Sea. Nowadays, very little, if any, comes to the Dead Sea, and yes, the Dead Sea is dying. We moved or diverted the water into our national water carrier, and as already mentioned by the previous speaker, we deliver water now from the Sea of Galilee to the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan according to the peace treaty that we have with Jordan. 15 million cubic meters per year are delivered to Jordan according to the peace treaty. So the national water carrier, which is, by the way, mostly is a pipeline, only 27 kilometers, which is about 16.5 miles, is open canal, with a capacity of about 380 million cubic meters per year, which are equivalent to more than 280,000 acre feet or 92,000 million gallons per year. This is the capacity, enormous capacity, to pump it from minus 212 meters up to plus 300, and then by gravity toward the northern Negev. Well, due to the last climate variations, due to the last 5 dry years, the most that we pump last year and this year will be 28 million out of 380 million capacity. We don't have more than that. So we face tremendous water problem. However, when you travel around the country, you don't feel it. We have means to overcome the deficiency in the Sea of Galilee. Where from? Groundwater and groundwater, reclaiming sewage water and desalination. Okay. So what you see here, the blue grid, is the skeleton or the spinal, the water spinal of our country. Being able to divert water from north to south, south to north, east, west, east, and east-west. No one else has this capacity around the world. Yes, we are a very small country, but California, New Jersey, or countries around the world, all water, or most of the water, is localized by community, by town, by basin. Okay, we are very proud of it, and of course, the reason was Homeland Security. But we are also very proud of the green line, and I'm sorry that you cannot see it, mainly in the Negev desert. This is the national infrastructure for diverting and transferring saline, natural, brackish water, groundwater, to farms and villages where they can be used. And we are very proud of the red ones. What are the red ones? National infrastructure for delivering treated sewage water all over the country. But This grid also enabled to us to connect between groundwater and surface water. So when we don't have enough surface water, such from the Sea of Galilee, we can compensate for the missing amount from groundwater, and recently, as you will see, also from seawater, from desalination. Okay, once groundwater is mentioned, okay, groundwater is the most reliable and sustainable storage facility. This is the best water saving account. It's natural, no evaporation, quality is maintained. So we developed the technology to be able to drill deep water wells. And as you see here, thousands of wells and boreholes along the coastal plain of Israel, many, hundreds of wells at the foothills of the Samaria, Judea, and Hebron mountains. Yes, now you see how many holes we have, so no wonder that we are called the Holy Land. Okay, 1,500 meters below surface. And I'm not talking about oil production well with 3 or 6 inches diameters, drilling diameters. I'm talking about 30 and 40 inches diameters, down to almost 4,500 feet below surface. Yes, we managed to develop, hydrogeologists discovered these reservoirs. We managed to drill, and some of the deep production wells provide us naturally, artesian, with 9 to 10 million cubic meters per year, just flowing water. This technology was developed in our country. If groundwater is mentioned, even in the desert where we have 25 millimeters of rainfall at most per year, like in the Arava, yes, we have groundwater. This is an abandoned mine, copper mine in north of Eilat in Timna. Where this water is coming from? Floods running from Idumea mountains into the valley. During the flow, floods, the water percolate and recharge the aquifer. If this is the natural process, why should not we mimic nature and enhance it? Because floods we have maybe 2, 3 times a year, and the flood lasts a couple of hours. So what you see here with the JNF, we managed in Israel to construct dams to attenuate the floods. We do not store this water because every day we lose 14 to 15 millimeters. That means 15 liters from 1 square yard or 1 square meter by evaporation. We lose fresh water, pure H2O. What is left behind? The salty water. So what you see here, these reservoirs are for attenuating the floods, get rid of the sediment, and when the water is clean, release the water. Here you can see it into infiltration lagoons, let it recharge and replenish groundwater, and later on pumped into covered reservoir. The only and unique reservoir designed in Israel, 150,000 cubic meters covered reservoir to avoid evaporation. Is it cheap? No. Is it affordable? Depends. If you are going to irrigate sorghum or barley, no. But if you're going to grow, like here in Ein Yahav, nice fresh vegetables during the winter, it makes sense. Okay, no secret. The agricultural sector takes more of the water. Yes, because we need food. In the 50s, we took, and this, by the way, these 3 photos were taken exactly from the same angle at the same basin. I did it. Not this one, but this one too. Okay, this is a desert virgin land. In less than 10 years, we proved ourselves and the rest of the world that we can turn it into a fertile, productive land. However, this is a luxury. We cannot afford it because from this land, we lose by evaporation substantial amount of water. So this is a history. We moved to the so-called what I called the plastic villages, the covered, controlled greenhouses and screen houses, where we can reach high or very high irrigation efficiency. This I took last year in the Sonora Desert, here in Arizona. This is a luxury. We cannot afford it. In the desert, flood irrigation with about 50 to 60% irrigation efficiency. It is a sin. But according to the local system, the guy who owns the land, he owns the water, and he couldn't care less. So he pumps water. Not in our country. Because in our country, it is not just a commodity, it is a national commodity, and the water is allocated according to availability to farmers and the users. So even sprinkling irrigation is not really recommended. We move to what you see here. This is a historic photo, I think. This is the first dripper that was invented by engineer Blaustein in the 60s. Just a hole, and as you can see here, a coil of polyethylene, a Tygon tube, and according to the lengths, you control the discharge. The longer the lengths, lower discharge, in order to get even distribution of water. Okay, so this is the secret. Why to irrigate the entire land, like here, while you can just irrigate, the sphere around the roots, the plants, saving a lot of water. But even that is not enough. We realized that in order to save water, maybe we should put, a PVC lining, and introduce fertile soil. So who cares what is the local soil? Because anyway, everything is controlled now. And as you can see here, within the sleeve, we have the irrigation line, and fertilizers and water are introduced together. We call it fertigation, fertilization plus irrigation. With that, we reach more than 90% irrigation efficiency with isolated, confined soil roots. Okay, many crops still cannot, are not it's not justified to grow them in controlled greenhouses. And what you see here, Netafim invented the subsurface drip irrigation system. And it's not trivial just to, bury the line below surface. They designed the drippers that the roots will never get into the opening, so the roots will never clog the water. This is a patent. Okay? With this, actually, we can now irrigate open field crops. Like here, what you see here, this is a lettuce in California. But this is not good enough. Of course, we do not irrigate everything. You see, the wet soil is around the lettuce, but the topsoil is wet. That means direct evaporation from the soil is a loss. And don't forget, what is evaporated is pure H2O. The water is not inert. The water interacts with the soil minerals, so all the dissolved salts create crust on the surface, killing or destroying the other precious resource, which is the soil. So what we are looking for is for this. So it will be wet below surface. And this is done with a very sophisticated, advanced, not sophisticated technology. We keep the surface dry and the moisture just around the roots. Even in such open field cultivation, we manage to get beyond 90% irrigation efficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, 90% versus 50 or 60. It's a big difference, big difference. So here you see, this is not in Israel, this is in Oklahoma. What you see here, the subsurface drip irrigation, and you see the crop is coming up and the surface is dry and clean from weeds. Why? Because, as you can see here, the moisture does not reach, the water doesn't reach the surface. What is the advantage? No weeds. No weeds, no need for herbicides, organic farming. So it's a win-win. So to sum this chapter up, yes, we moved into, actually the agricultural industry in Israel is an industry, is a high-tech. Everything is controlled according to these sensors: microclimate, temperature, air, soil, water, humidity in the air, in the soil, inside. Everything is controlled by this little small computer, which is less than $350 each, controlling the moisture and the irrigation for the entire farm. We can do it in Israel. But the rest, again, mainly to save on expensive water and labor. But ladies and gentlemen, challenges for the world. Most of the world still irrigate in this way. Africa, India, large part of Far East Asia, China, even South America. This is sin, because this guy, the amount of production that he can get out of this water, it is limited, and it's not justified. These guys are not primitives. They lack the basic education. And once they introduce to this concept, look, they are very, very creative. Very creative. Look with this guy, he just learned about drip irrigation, and look, he entrepreneur. That's what he meant. This is what he came up with. It's a great idea. But Netafim and Na'andan, they came with another system. Low pressure family unit drip irrigation package. As you can see here, for 1 acre, with local materials, low pressure, maybe 1.0.15 bars or atmospheres of pressure, you can irrigate about an acre. And this is the solution. This is the solution. Would Europe, we are talking about worldwide challenges, would Europe invest disseminating this knowledge in Africa? They wouldn't face, by fringe of the money they invest nowadays to absorb the refugees, they wouldn't face the crisis that they are facing now. And this is just a matter of education. You take 8, 10 years old boys and girls, after 5 years with basic education, they can accommodate this. This photo was taken from Zambia, 200 kilometers away from Livingstone. This community was poor. And in less than 2 years' time, they started to produce food, and they have surplus. Now they sell it in Livingstone. Another technology. Remember the green lines, brackish water. Another way is to try and educate or come up with genetic engineering. Yes, genetic engineering, modifying species to tolerate salty water. Here we are talking about wines, grapefruits, and once we come up with shoots that can tolerate the salt, it can be grafted with commercial species. Cabernet, Syrah, Merlot, whatever. Nowadays in the Negev highland, the scenery has been changed in the summertime. We have vineyards all over, irrigated by salty, brackish water. Salt-tolerant species, melons, zucchini, cucumbers, grafted with commercial varieties. These are the BGU melons, my university melons. Is it a high cash crop? Yes, because instead of 7 metric tons per acre, 35 metric tons per acre on brackish, salty water. They are green from the outside. They are dark orange and sweet as hell inside. Mini watermelons, and they are mini not because of genetic engineering, because they are poorly irrigated with brackish water. So you get into these fancy restaurants in Paris, London, or Tokyo. I saw it in Tokyo. They sell it for $48 a piece. Tomatoes, peppers, these are the varieties from the Arava Valley on brackish water. Fish. Oceans are depleted for many, many species because of heavy fishery. It turned out that you can take oceanic species and convert them to salty water in less than 3 days. And they love the brackish water. So in the desert, we have from 1 kilometer below surface, it's warm water, we can grow tropical species with high value in the market. But what you do with the water later on, you have to release the water. What we do, because we have to replace the water, and these water are pumped from 1 kilometer, they're expensive. So the fish enrich the water with ammonia. Ammonia is converted to nitrate. And what do we do with the water? Sell it to whom? To another farmer. Because this farmer, here, this lagoon is not evaporation lagoon. This lagoon with the solar radiation and algae, the appropriate species of algae, and lily flowers, they reduce the level of ammonia, and algae can be harvested as a food for the fish farm. Lily flowers are exported together with the vegetables, those nice restaurants, because they can survive for 10 days or 2 weeks. And when the quality is appropriate, it goes to irrigate olive plantations and dates. Every acre of fish farm can support 25 acres drip irrigation of olive plantations. We used to import olive oil from Greece, Spain, and Italy. Nowadays, we export olive oil from our desert, including to Greece, not Greece, I'm sorry, they cannot pay for that, including Spain and Italy. It's like selling ice to the Eskimos. So 3 products from 1 unit of water. And lately, I'm sorry for the quality, the light, aquaponics. Again, we try to provide the farmers with the ability to raise fish, use the water for hydroponics. The plants decrease the amount of nitrate, and then the water is circulated again through filters to the fish. It's still experimental stage, but it's coming up quite fast. Okay, I read it. One cannot sustain the water and food supply with diminishing amount of water and continuously growing of population. Water saving alone will not save us. Will conventional policy of water saving and increasing water use efficiency enable humanity to avoid water shortage and provide water security? No, not necessarily so. Only to mitigate the situation. We have to come up with additional technology in order to be able to come with unconventional source of water. With dwindling water resources and growing demand for food, one must adopt new mindset for water utilization. One is reclaiming sewage water. As you can see here, sewage water is treated in the metropolitan area of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Haifa, and diverted into regions or basins where it is safe to be used. Israel Valley in the north and the northern Negev in the south. Jaffa oranges are no longer surrounding Jaffa. They are surrounding Gaza Strip. Okay, treating the sewage water became an issue, and we try to maximize the water production with minimum energy and maximum efficiency. This innovation, that was developed on these very sophisticated beads, they actually allow biomass to settle, and this biomass is migrating within these oxidation lagoons and brings the bacteria to meet more of the dissolved organic compounds, and actually manage from a small volume to treat a big amount of sewage. And this is something new, not yet commercialized. It is a challenge. What you saw here takes energy. We need energy to introduce oxygen into the water and energy to circulate the water. Here we try to do something else. How many of you are familiar with chemical cells? Producing electricity by chemical reaction. Here, instead of chemicals, we use the sewage in anaerobic environment, separated from the aerobic cell by selective membranes. Hydrogen atoms migrate toward the cathode, and electrodes are moving around, actually producing cell from the sewage. Not yet commercialized. Here is a prototype. There are some problems. I hope that soon it will be on the shelf. So nowadays in Israel, 86% of the sewage is treated and reclaimed by the agricultural sector, which is 2/3 of the water they get. Desalination, that is the last component. Last parameter. Nowadays, what is desalination? This is very simple. If you have energy, you push the salty water against this reverse osmotic membrane, pure water from here, the brines from here. The problem is, if you are not situated next to the seashore, you don't have the ability to release the brines. What do you do with the brines? Especially with these groundwater desalination. Nowadays in Israel, this year, from the year 2015, we desalinate altogether 365 million cubic meters per year. It's a lot. It's a lot, and this what allows us to bridge and to overcome water scarcity. Is it cheap? No. It is between 60 to 70 US cents per cubic meter, 265 gallons. If our economy can accommodate it, many other economies can do the same. So, to sum it up, the desalination system became a successful parameter in our water supply because it is now connected together with groundwater into the grid. No one gets just 100% desalinated water. It is mixed. Actually, we get a melange of water from the Sea of Galilee, from the aquifers, and from the desalination plants. This is the secret. Because by having this melange, by being able to create this melange, we manage to control the quality and come up with the adequate qualities that meet the demands of the end user. That's why Israel is the only country in the Middle East that does not suffer from desertification. As you can see here, we push the desert further to the south by irrigation. I will stop here. Thank you very much.